If we want to continue producing steel in 2050 and beyond, we need to find a way to reduce its carbon footprint and to make it net zero, ideally. So there are a few chemicals that you can make that have very similar characteristics to the conventional liquid fuels. There are direct analogies to petrol and to diesel. Our particular interest in the SUSTAIN project is a form of diesel, and I call it sort of the autogas version but for diesel. So it burns very, very cleanly. There's no carbon-carbon bonds in it, so it can't make soot. But also we can make it from carbon dioxide. And we can make it very clean and very pure. Because normally when you take diesel or anything from the ground, it's a myriad of different compounds all burning at different rates and different impurity levels, but we can make something really, really clean. And this will allow us to continue to use some of the existing infrastructure, the existing pipelines, the existing lorries and engines that may be very hard to electrify in the near future.
If you think about CO2 in the steel industry, CO2 is one of the byproducts, and at the moment it's classed as a waste. What we're trying to do is reclassify it as a resource. So every time we produce carbon dioxide, that's one atom of carbon which would otherwise have to come out of the ground that we are putting back into the value chain. So making a fuel that doesn't contain new fossil carbon, but making a fuel that is recycled around a new carbon cycle. Where we are in the UK with regard to carbon capture and utilisation is that we're making synthetic fuels, we're making aggregates to use in building projects, we're making building materials. So we are starting to do the carbon dioxide utilisation part, we just need to do it a lot quicker. And I think SUSTAIN is a way of accelerating that development. So working with the steel partners is really important. We have to take safety first as the first consideration. We need to make sure we're not affecting their operations. So we've spent a long time making sure that the unit that we have is compatible with their operation and getting the permits to do that. In terms of how quickly we can roll it out, we've built this in basically a horse box. So we can put it on the back of a car, tow it to the site, and if everything's ready at the steel emitter site, we can just plug and play effectively. It's done at ambient temperature, so whatever the temperature is at the site, we don't have to heat it or cool it. We can just plug it in, and with a startup of about 5 minutes, we can be operational from that point.
And now we've got a capture process, it's ready. Now we need to look at the utilisation and close that circle to mean we can recycle the carbon the same way we recycle glass and metal and plastic. And if we can do that, we can make a truly circular economy, so we don't need any fresh raw materials out of the ground. And that's the benefit, that's where we want to be. We don't want to be reliant on getting these raw materials. We also don't want to be causing fresh pollution by getting more fossil fuels out of the ground. Let's leave them down there as best we can.
We have developed a new carbon capture technology within SUSTAIN, which won an award recently in the Engineer Awards, and it's now been commercialised through the University of Sheffield. This will really accelerate the progress. If we think about carbon capture and storage, we're looking at maybe a decade before we have the pipelines in place. With carbon dioxide utilisation, we can do that in ISO shipping containers, and we can have those on site within a year. If we look at the full supply chain, we could, in theory, reach a point where steel is the byproduct of synthetic fuel manufacture, for example. So this is really accelerating forward.